plan a fun team event that's memorable for all the right reasons? Well, if you do, there's one big mistake you need to avoid. Hi, I'm Chloe Semple, founder of the Ultimate Offsite, and today we're addressing the third biggest pitfall of successful team events. That's too much mandatory fun. Now, I'm not trying to play party pooper here, but if I can give you a word of warning, this one can do some real damage. No one wants to be the one to break it to the leader that the thing that they've spent a load of time planning has actually been not that good. But equally, no leader wants their team stood around at their events that they've worked their arse off to pull together, just counting down the minutes until they can go home, or worse, seriously uncomfortable or silently distressed about what's going on. Because this happens, and actually more often than you might think. See, what's fun for one might not be for another. Having worked with hundreds of leaders now over the past 3 years with their team events, I've learned that for some reason, a team event is synonymous with the feeling or the desire to do something fun. So from treasure hunts, to cocktail making, sports days, to dinner, to drinks, softball tournaments, axe throwing, art classes, trust falls, crystal mazes, raft building. For many of you, when you think of a team building activity, something like that comes to mind. All of which, I'm going to say, absolutely can have a place. Heck, fun is fun, right? But as we're going to cover in Pitfall 4, now that's in a video that's coming soon, but fun is not necessarily always super inclusive. Because unless my whole team are yogis, forcing every single person into a downward dog just because I like to downward dog might be someone's idea of hell. The same goes for drinks or outdoor activities or physically demanding tasks, inflatable assault courses or competitive sports. These might sound fun to you, but are you really reflective of your entire team? See, the first time I heard the phrase mandatory fun was from Tyann Osborne, who's the ex-HR guru at Dell. And she described mandatory fun as when the company or the leader says, we're going to do this team building event, it's going to be fun and you must attend. Now, absolutely no one does this with malintent, right? Quite the opposite. We plan these activities really hoping the team are going to enjoy them, bond, but too much mandatory fun can actually have the opposite effect. It can actually alienate people and actually reduce engagement that we were trying to build. So I'm not saying don't do fun things, as much as I am inviting you to think a little bit carefully about how inclusive you can make them. But one of the big things I think often leaders get wrong is thinking that the more worky stuff can't be fun too. Some of the most fun team experiences I've ever had have been doing things like Dragon's Den or a Shark Tank or a design thinking workshop. Heck, a strategy day done well with post-it notes all over the walls and everyone ideating, what could we be doing better, being creative, working together, having a laugh. They can be so much fun. Fun doesn't have to be so forced or formulaic, right? Work can be highly engaging. Heck, I often find it that teams actually, and dare I say, enjoy it more when it is a little bit but work related. They feel like they're then contributing, that what they're doing isn't a waste of time. They feel like it's meaningful, productive, that it isn't just time away from everything else that they've got on their plate. So what can you do to avoid this pitfall? Now, here are some ideas. The first one is to survey your team. Find out perhaps which activities they would want to do, ensure that everyone feels like they have a say, feels valued. Now, I'm going to caveat this one, that I don't necessarily think surveys are always the best way to go. Sometimes it's just a leader abdicating their responsibility. Sometimes it's not always the best, just simply go with the idea that the majority have chosen. A friend of mine, really great leader, a certain number of really vocal members in her team kept requesting, can we do a fitness class as part of the next team day? Her husband owns a fitness studio. And so eventually she was like, yeah, sure, we can put that on. He put it on. And let's just say she learned the hard way on that day that there were some less than happy team members who were not vocal in the decision making there, who were not happy that what went on. Surveys can be helpful, but I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't advocate your own leadership as well. So another idea is to, as I said before, try making your strategy fun. Now I've said this before, but fun doesn't have to be separate from work. Too often I see leaders in that last minute scramble, planning their event. They've allocated themselves some time up front, they're going to talk about their strategy or deploy their strategy or something, and they haven't even written it, or they haven't even created it. And what I encourage you to think about in that scenario is actually, could you have flipped it? And actually, could it have been a really engaging session that actually, rather than deploying a strategy to the team, you created space for them to actually input into it and create it together? That to me is far more engaging than some of the things I've seen. Third idea is to offer choices and optionality. So this is about making things optional but encouraged. An event I supported last week, they had a charity walk to kick the day off. Couple of people decided not to come. It was optional. They decided to meet for breakfast instead. But the people who did, they absolutely loved it. Now, that allows people to choose what they feel most comfortable with, most likely going to enjoy. Now, you might still be sat there thinking, well, it's impossible to please everyone, so why even try? Or who doesn't love a boat? The thing is, no, it's not always possible to please everyone. But my one big nudge, I think, would be to think about how do you make the worky stuff fun first before you cut back and leap straight into something like Explore. Now, I'm not denying that all of this is a challenge. Finding inspiration for fun activities whilst trying to make them meaningful and inclusive, it's not easy. And balancing the desire to involve everyone, but equally to try and push them out of their comfort zone whilst not pushing it too far, is tricky. But it's also super worth it. Now, this might not be your biggest pitfall. This video is part of a series of 10 in which we're identifying some of the pitfalls, but some ideas of how you can make your offsites truly effective. You might not have time to watch all 10. So, to help, we've created a 2-minute quiz or assessment to help you identify which areas within your offsites need the most work. You'll also get an overall offsite effectiveness score, and you'll get a personalised report that's like, okay, this is where you're best, and these are the areas that you need to focus on in terms of your events a little bit more. So if that sounds useful, then the link will be below to take that. I'd love to see you for a future episode 2. If this one has been helpful for you at all, even in the slightest, please like, comment, subscribe. Really helps more than you can know. See you next time.